The next question comes from Fanata. And Fanata has been ever so grown up with his question this week and says, in the mediums of art and film, very few works are remembered centuries on. What games, if any, will be remembered 100 years from now?
This one it's not on the agenda. Can you read that question again?
That's because Fanata sent it like 2 minutes before we went live. In the mediums of art and film, very few works are remembered centuries on. What games, if any, will be remembered 100 years from now? What games will stand the test of time? And you can't just say Mario, because obviously Mario will.
Well, I'm caught aback. This is a very good question.
It's good, isn't it? It's not usually what we get from Fanata. No offence, Fanata.
Too late, you said it now.
Shall I jump on this one while you guys think about some answers? Do you need some time?
Go for it.
Go on it.
So, generally speaking, stuff that's remembered as a classic, that there are like 3 criteria that tends to make something like a classic, excluding time, because time is a big factor. It needs to be many years down the line. Usually if something is considered a classic and remembered for centuries, it's because it makes some sort of commentary or impact. It's either the first to do something, so it's innovative, or it is the last to do something and it ends up being the only one left, or the last one of that particular type of thing. And this is just drawing on literature. That's like the general trends that you get in literature. So games like Final Fantasy VII, yeah, sure, that's going to be remembered forever. But I think something that's made a lot of impact to the games industry and also like society in general with its commentary, Metal Gear Solid.
It's a good shout. It's a good shout.
I think it touches on an interesting point as well, which I think you summed it up really well there, Ash, and actually started my brain engaging into the question. So thank you for that. Another aspect of that as well is that the artists, sometimes not what they paint or what they do is necessarily remarkable, but who the artist is also does that. And with things like Hideo Kojima, he could do, he can release anything and it's got his name on it, so therefore it's going to have a fan base to it. Peter Molyneux is another one that comes to mind when he did that stupid game where people just had to click things to find out what the center of. Yeah, complete and utter rubbish, but it's going to be in an art museum and remembered forever because he's the first one to do it and he's very eccentric. So stuff like that. But I'd like to think games, like Ash said, the first ones to do it and the ones that trailblazed, not just Nintendo because they're the obvious ones, but also things like Limbo, Super Meat Boy, Braid, all those original indie games that proved that you didn't have to be a massive AAA studio to be successful. You could just what are you guys laughing at? Who said what in the chat?
I don't know. I just saw Ash laugh at something.
Sorry, someone said Ash is great, and I don't often get told I'm great, so I'm like basking in it. Please ignore me and continue your thoughts, John.
Do it. But yeah, I was just saying that all of those games, that those indie developers that said you don't need massive AAA budgets, you don't need to take the mickey with massive marketing budgets and stuff like that. You just need a lot of passion and a great idea, and you can deliver them. And I think any of those can be on a plaque anywhere in a museum and say this is a turning point for gaming. So I'd go with one of those.
Okay, I think you're right, Bill. That personalities like the actual game creators, like Kojima and stuff like that, would be remembered just as much as the games. It's like you think of like classical music. You've all heard of Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, and all of that, but I bet you don't know many of the titles of their actual musical pieces.
Yeah, that's right.
Speak for yourself.
All right, in some cases. Okay, let's not have a music debate because we don't have time.
Well, it's like
what was I talking about?
I don't know. I never asked you about this, John, but yes. Remember that time we met Cliffy B?
I remember the time we met Cliffy B. Yes, he signed my Gears of War poster.
Yeah, are we allowed to say what we think about people? Because
okay,
in a negative. Okay, I think he's a jerk.
I don't think we're sponsored or anything, so.
I think he was a jerk when we met Cliffy B, because he was right above himself, and he sat there with this massive line of people, and he was like, look at me, look at me. I asked him a question, and he literally turned to his security guard and said, could you answer this person's question for me? And I was like, what a jerk. You literally could have said it to me. And all John wanted was an autograph, didn't you, and a picture.
Yeah. Sorry, I got my copy of Fable signed by Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, I've still got that as well. But yeah, unfortunately, people like that, those eccentric people that may have not necessarily done too much as well, will obviously be noted for this. But very good question, Fanata. Very impressed.
Let's see what the chat had to say, because there's loads of comments in the chat for that. Final Fantasy VII, I think I would agree with that. Emily says E.T. on the Atari.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know there's supposedly like there's a field somewhere in Hull where there's just loads of them buried, and me and my group.
What, as in not Arizona, but there's actually something in the UK for it.
Like apparently there's a landfill in Hull somewhere that's full of them, and me and my group
that's our next video in the summer. Then we're going on a road trip.
We were gonna proper like mystery machine Scooby gang it up to Hull and go digging for this like urban legend.
I'm up for that. We'll do that. That's a video for us in the summer. We'll take it on a road trip. Jack says GTA 7 might be out in 100 years. Cake for all. WWE Crush Hour. No, mate.
Yes.
No, it's not 100 year. It's not a 100-year game. Minecraft, quite possibly. The Last of Us 2 seems to be quite a big deal. Tomb Raider, maybe. Pokemon, definitely. Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. Probably doubtful. I think I'd agree with your doubtful comment there, WV.
Not the games, but the person, the director.
Yeah, David Cage.
Yes.
He's like an auteur, a bit like Kojima, but I think they'd be remembered.
Games. Chrono Trigger, quite possibly. Goat Simulator, I think you're clutching at straws there, Cheney. Portal 2, I mean, it's great, but I don't know. Smash will probably still be going in 100 years. We got to think Mario's 30.
And there will still be people playing Melee.
But that's the thing. Yeah. Mario and Zelda are 35 years old already. They're already a third of the way there. Tetris is probably coming up to 40, isn't it? Pong was what, 1975, something like that. That's
reminds me
nearly 50 years old already.
This reminds me of an old Flash cartoon I watched when I was about 16 years old, where someone wanted to buy the latest Final Fantasy game, and they pulled it off the shelf, and it took almost 10 minutes because it's all in Roman numerals, and it just goes on forever as it's coming off the shelf.
I like that. Neopets, probably not. Tamagotchis, no, I don't know.
Tamagotchi,
Tamagotchi, absolutely Tamagotchi, because does
it count as a video game though?
Yes.
Really?
It's a handheld. And they released the Tamagotchi game on DS. But anyway, they made Evangelion ones recently. They keep remaking and re-releasing Tamagotchis. I have a good Tamagotchi somewhere. But yeah, Tamagotchi.
Okay, I'm just going to go on eBay or Amazon or something now to get myself an Evangelion Tamagotchi. What is this and why have I not heard of it?
They are heckin' expensive. Like heckin' chonkin' expensive. Sorry, I've spent a lot of time on TikTok recently.
All right. Okay, right. Now we've got 3 quick questions from ourselves. Bill, what's your question for us this week, mate?
Well, I was going through the features of the PlayStation, obviously, and although I haven't done them all at the moment.
You haven't even played Astro, so you don't even know about the haptic triggers yet. You haven't even experienced the haptic feedback, have you? But go on, pretend you know all about it with your la-di-da question.
Well, what do you mean my la-di-da question, cheek of it all? Anyway, my question is, does Rumble on a controller and things matter anymore? And what other gaming features could you live without?
Rumble does matter.
How? Why?
It matters in certain games. And when you say Rumble, do you mean all forms of tactile feedback from a controller?
Yeah, we all know what happened with the Switch, this HD Rumble, that it was such a big selling point and everyone's forgotten about, and even the developers don't use it now. I don't think even developers on PlayStation and Xbox use it to the right degrees of how it should be used anyway. It is just sort of like a tacked on feature. I didn't realise for a long time that even my controllers had stopped rumbling on certain games because I just turned them off. And when I turned them back on, I was kind of like, is it rumbling? Is it not? I just don't think it's a big deal anymore. Am I on my own?
I mean, I could live with it if I didn't have it, but I like to have controllers that have feedback.
I think Emily makes a good point in the chat as well. It's good for accessibility. And Cake for All has said the same thing. It's one of those things that, like, at the risk of getting really like social justice-y, that someone like you or I may not think of as something that we could like we could take it or leave it, but it's really crucial for someone else. So I think Rumble is very important, and a lot of things like Rumble and haptic feedback and stuff are, maybe I could live without them, but I think they're important to keep. And you know, you can just turn it off if you don't like it.
I've been finding I turn it off because it wastes more. I think you've made a very valid point there, Ash. Well done with the fact that it's second. You know, it's not a big deal to me, but obviously there's other people that would definitely need it. Well done. But I find that it drains powers. The power on your controller faster, and it's when a developer can't be bothered to necessarily use it in a way it should be done, I just turn it off. And it's annoyance more than anything else. But
a lot of games just have it just for the sake of having it, but some games really do use it well. For example, when you play Astro, you'll understand why Astro is so much better with that PS5 controller. I wouldn't want to play Astro with a PS4 controller, if that makes any sense.
So what other things would you get rid of then that you think are wasted?
I would get rid of the always on microphone when you turn the PS5 on in the controller, because it's always on and I have to manually turn it off every single time like I load up Dragon Age, and I didn't realize it was on while I was playing Tomb Raider, and it kept pausing because that has voice commands. And yeah, so I would like to get rid of not being able to turn that off as just a setting. But other than that, like, I don't know, lives? Let's get rid of them. Who needs lives anymore? This isn't an arcade.
A lot of games put lives in to be like an old style game, and it is old. It is old, isn't it? I'm just trying to think what I could do without. I was going to say.
Here's an example. What about that touchpad they got on the PlayStation controller?
Oh yeah, you don't need no touchpad rubbish. No.
I would once again posit that might actually be decent for accessibility, and they've done some really cool stuff with it, like moving Tearaway into PlayStation instead of just on the PS Vita.
I think the whole... Sorry, Ash, to interrupt. Carry on.
No, and I was also about to just say that you use it on Final Fantasy XIV as well. It's handy.
I think there's a lot to be said for like the accessibility side of things, which I guess is a hugely important aspect of the industry, which I think they have generally got a lot better at making games more accessible. You see it not just with controllers and stuff. You see the work that the Special Effect Charity do in terms of modifications for controls and input methods and stuff like that. So I don't think that they should ever remove anything. So I think that they should always innovate to try and put new features in, because there will always be features that we don't necessarily perhaps need, but obviously could be hugely important for some other people, of course.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm going to have to educate myself, because clearly I didn't know about those things. So thank you very much.
Someone in the chat said we should get rid of VR. You're wrong. VR, it's not great right now, but it's kind of good, and VR is still going to be amazing in the future, and I love it.
I will enjoy VR when it is on like holodeck levels.
Well, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll be like, or more augmented reality. In fact, just on another slight tangent, did you see the Microsoft Mesh reveal this week?
No.
Excellent. I'll be very quick then. Basically, it's the new glass thingamabob, like a pair of glasses, does augmented reality and stuff like that, so that you can do this whole Minority Report virtual menus in front of you and tabletop models and stuff like that, and share it over the internet with someone else who's also wearing one and stuff. It looks quite cool. But then I was thinking there was supposed to be a Formula One car reveal today, which was going to be revealed in augmented reality. So you could see the new Formula One car this year, life size, on your phone, obviously, in your living room or wherever it is that you happen to be sitting. But it got hacked, and so they didn't do it today.
Life size?
Yeah, so you'd look through your phone. It would be like looking through your camera on your phone, but there'd be a car there.
Okay.
And then you can walk around the car and see the car. But unfortunately, they got hacked just before they released it today. So instead, we got a photograph. But hey-ho. Also, just checking in the chat there as well. Simp Spotter, I did see your question. We're going to make that a topic on the next show, because I feel it's quite an important topic and worthy of more than just a 5-minute discussion. So...
You need to go and look at this question.
It's basically about the toxicity in gaming communities.
Okay. Pog, I shall bring my notes.
Indeed. So it's not a 5-minute chat.
Ash did that question a couple of months ago.
Well, we'll do it again. We'll see if the conversation has moved. Hopefully it has. It probably hasn't, because it's the gaming industry. But hey-ho. My question is, in 10 years' time, what games would you like to see on an Xbox 360 Mini? And I know it'll be digital and it'll never happen. That's not the point. But what Xbox 360 games would you like to see on an Xbox 360 Mini? Go.
None, because I can play them all on my PC.
That's not the question. That's not the question. It's not about it's all free on Game Pass now or it's all backwards compatible. Imagine if they were cartridge games and you couldn't get them anymore. What would you want to have on your Xbox 360?
Can you name me an Xbox 360 exclusive?
Halo. Original Halo.
There'll be your Halos and your Forzas, your Fables and your Gears of Wars, won't there?
Yeah.
Fable. I'll go with Fable.
But what I would like to see if they did a 360 Mini is if they, and I know this won't happen because of licensing agreements and everything else, but there was a tremendous exclusive library of games that came out for the Xbox 360 that nudged it ahead of the PlayStation. And if they released things like Dead Rising, Lost Planet, Perfect Dark, Left 4 Dead, Portal, Ninja Gaiden, Doom, Dead Space, Mass Effect 1, all of those were exclusive for the Xbox 360 when they first came out, and then they'd said, release your sequels on whatever you want. Bioshock, that was first on Xbox 360 as well. I'd like those in a collection. I wouldn't play them because I'm like Ash, I'd just play them online or whatever now, but if you wanted to give me your question...
Alright, pointless question, fine.
But if you wanted an Xbox 360 Mini, I would like them to treat it with the games that were exclusive at the time.
Awesome.
I think some people in the chat have made some good points. I'd like games that you don't really think of, like that I never played on the Xbox. So things like Lost Odyssey. I mean, I'll take Beautiful Katamari because I love me a good Katamari game. But yeah, things that people don't remember. So
Blue Dragon.
I think Blue Dragon was mentioned a couple of times. Yeah. Lost Odyssey. I'm always gonna take Fable as well because oh boy, do I love those games. But yeah, like things like that. I don't want Halo and Gears and Forza because there'll be new Halos and Gears and Forza in 10 years.
Project Gotham Racing. Transformers War for Cybertron, says Jack. Amazing game.
Of course. Hang on, let's just... That is like Jack's favourite game. So let's not be surprised that Jack has said Transformers War for Cybertron.
No, Epic Ashman. Epic Ashman says, my mum sold my 360 without my permission.
Another way they could
shouldn't laugh at that, but...
Another way they could do it is they could do like a celebration of the Xbox Live Arcade and bring a lot of those games that I know are on everything now, but there's also quite a few like unique twists on games that they had because Xbox Live really started with the arcade and that's what launched it. So yeah, what was there? I played a lot of Geometry Wars and Zuma.
Hexic from Alexei Pachinov or the Tetris dude, doesn't it?
All that stuff. That would be pretty cool too.
Awesome. Good answers. There was way more games on your list, Bill, than what I had in my head. Thank you for putting that list together.
That's all right, mate.
Yes, there's love in the chat for Hexic. Awesome. That was a hard game. I still never got all the achievements in that. Ash, your question, please.
So my question this week might need some explanation if you aren't familiar with some of the terms. So if you were a VTuber, what animal would represent you? So VTubers are animated YouTubers. They're virtual YouTubers, but a lot of them are on Twitch as well. It's people like Korone, Comfy Rana, Nyanas, and they have animated avatars, and usually they are related to some sort of animal. So Comfy Rana is Scottish, so they are a Highland cow, and Nyanas is a cat. Korone is a dog. There's a girl who is like, I think she's a squirrel. There's a jellyfish girl. There's a shark girl. I would be a panda because I am lazy. I am a very picky eater, and I don't sit still. And I don't know if you ever watched pandas, but they're always just like bumbling around, moving. So I would be a panda. So what would you guys be if you were animal, or like if you were animals, because it's like they're like,
what
think
would I have
of
as an
cat
avatar?
girls.
What was I have as an avatar?
No, because it's like you know the stereotypical JRPG cat girl where it's just like ears and a tail. What would you have to represent you?
I would have a cat. I was trying to find a picture of my cat with a monocle, but I don't have it on this computer, unfortunately, here at home. So very sorry. But yeah, I'd have a cat, and I would animate it so that when I talk, the cat moves his ears and mouth and
that's
stuff.
what they do.
That's
what they do.
Cool.
Well, that's where we've been going wrong. We need to do the whole show. Next week, the whole show, we're doing it as weird animal avatars.
Maybe Vagris in the community can hook us up, because
Yeah,
Vagris
he's sorted himself right out, hasn't he? Old Vagris,
Yeah.
with
OLL
VTube.
Community member. There we go. We'll give him a quick plug. Join the Discord. He posts on the community channels.
Yes, and he's done a great job, and he's improving the animation every week. So definitely go check out Vagris and what he's doing there. I'd probably be a platypus.
That's interesting.
Oh well, I've never seen any of these. I know what you mean now. I just didn't know the terminology. I've seen these before, but I've never seen anybody try and animate a beak. And I'm just quite curious to sort of explore that and just see how.
Like a Muppet, wouldn't you? Because you just.
Well, that's the thing. You'd think it looks stupid, and it probably would. So that would be right up my street. So
I'll have a dinosaur then.
Well, no, because that's you can.
But
you can sort of make
wait, no.
humanised.
The point is that you're like a human, like a cat girl, but with platypus attributes. You can't just be a dinosaur, John. You like if you were a T-Rex,
I wanna be a
you'd have
dinosaur,
like
damn
sharp teeth and like little arms and some scales, but you wouldn't just be a T-Rex. Also, did someone else in the chat say panda? Because I want to be panda buddies.
Cake for All said panda.
Yay!
Or a mouse, a house cat, a simple house cat, says JFC. Bill would be a golden Labrador, loyal to a fault, says his wife.
Yeah, I was just say that's from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate
Apparently,
that.
I'd be a squirrel.
I could see you as a squirrel, John.
Thanks. Ash has already got Pikachu ears.
There it is.
It's not even my favorite Pokemon.
A narwhal, a gerbil, a lion. Phineas and Ferb had a platypus, apparently, according to Jack.
They did. Perry the platypus.
John with little
Perry.
arms. All right, okay. Right.
Yeah, when I was drawing growing up, I had this sort of chibi platypus character that I used to put in all my comic book strips. So I'd probably try and make that, but I just don't know how the beak would work, and it's just curious because when, like you say, making a dinosaur or a fox, there's lots of humanized versions, but you can't really sort of.
You could do it as like a hat, so like a baseball cap. So the beak of the baseball cap would be the beak, but you'd still have like a people face.
Normal face, yeah. I suppose. I just want to see how that animated beak would move if you were speaking every time. It's just kind of curious, but that's just me.
Put that together for tomorrow night's stream, then, Bill.
Oh yeah.